That was, I'm sure, incredibly entertaining. Hello, and welcome to my podcast. I'm Naomi, and this is NJ Knits, where I talk about my knitting. So, welcome to anyone who's new here. Please feel welcome, and please do enjoy, and I hope you comment and subscribe and reach out and say hi, because that's the whole reason I'm doing this, is I really enjoy talking about my knitting, and I enjoy connecting with other knitters, and I just really like it when it feels like people are connecting back, I guess. And to any returning viewers, any and all returning viewers, thank you so much for coming back, and welcome back, and hi. I chat to some of you in the comments and other places, so hello, it's nice to see you. Today is a bit chaotic, like any day with myself. I'm back on the boat, so you can see there's some Christmas wrapping behind me. I have to do some Christmas wrapping of loads of gift knits, so I thought I would show you some of those gift knits, because some of them are pre-podcasting knits that I haven't really shown before, or might have shown on Instagram, but my Instagram recently got deleted by Instagram for no apparent reason, so I have a new Instagram. It's the same as the old one, but with full stops in between, so it's Naomi.joy.knits. Yeah, so refollow me if you would, please. I would appreciate it, because currently I'm not able to follow anyone. I'm following 15 people, and that seems to be Instagram's limit on my new account, and I'm also not allowed to comment or like anyone else's posts or comments, or reply to any comments. So I can DM though, and I can post stories, and I can post content, but I just can't follow anyone at the moment. But please do follow me. I'm around. That seems a little bit like, what's the word? Seems a little bit disingenuous. Follow me, but I won't follow you. Currently I can't. It's so frustrating. Anyways, so I thought I would show you some gift knits before I wrap them up. I have a couple of AFOs to show you, one very recent one, and I have some WIPs, and I think a couple new cast-ons, at least one new cast-on, because I cast it on today, but I think more than one. I'm off work, and that's why I'm home, which is exciting. I'll be home, and then we're off to Scotland to see my family for Christmas, and then we'll be to Brighton to see my partner's family after Christmas, and then I'm off to America to see some other family we're celebrating 12th night together. Anyway, festivities abound, and I'm very excited. The plants are all here joining us today. They're mostly okay. Some of them are a bit on the unhappy side, but anyway, I'm also going to make some Christmas cards today, so I'm getting very festive. This is the particularly unhappy one. This was a philodendron melee gold, and it did not like the cold. Some plants do well on my boat, others only last the summertime, and then they die. So we just move on and do what we can with what we have. So I have two comments that I'd like to read out from the last video. The first one is from Monica Yoger Torrado. Monica, she says, I enjoyed so much watching you struggle with that devilish row and finally beat it. I don't know why, but I felt strangely compelled to try it myself, so I just bought the pattern and spent the whole afternoon choosing color combinations. You will not be alone in the effort. May the gods help us all. I am so thrilled that someone else in the world is like me and they see someone struggle and they go, I want to try that. Makes me so heartwarmed to know someone else is like that. So Monica, I'm so excited. I saw your colors. I went on Instagram, saw them. I think they're fantastic. Great choices. And I'm so excited. I think after the new year, or maybe like I'm about to send off some gifts for the Not Obstructed by Perfection knit along I've been doing, which are some sort of fast quick knit balls of wool that I got in Prague. But anyways, once I send those off, I might start a knit along for the Welcome to the Jungle sweater, because there's at least one other person knitting it, so we can knit together and we may do a knit along. Someone else said maybe you should do a knit along. I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I should. We'll see. So I think I will start that once I've wrapped up the Not Obstructed by Perfection one. And then she's also said knit a very long, because it will take a long time. And then the other comment I wanted to share, which made me laugh as well, is is this one from Shoeless Monk 1. And they have said, "Hi Naomi, I always enjoy watching your video, but I could not stop laughing tonight. I see you always smart and real, but you are extra funny on this one. Love your courageous knitting. You teach me to pick up my needles and yarn and fearlessly create. Stacy." So thank you, Stacy, for that comment. That was really nice. I liked it a lot. Sort of poetic comment. Pick up your needles and yarn and fearlessly create. So anyways, let me jump right in and show you some of the things that I have made. I'm trying to remember if I'm forgetting things. I probably am. Hello. So I'm just popping on because I forgot. I've just been to the dentist and I didn't think this through, but I forgot my finished object and I have to show this to you, but I'm so numb. This is hilarious. I'm just numb. I had a cavity filled. It was already filled, but the filling fell apart. Anyways, point is, everything's fine. I'm just numb in the face. But I wanted to show you this because I was just like talking about how these were gonna get a show, and I forgot that I had them. They were already packed in my sock drawer, so I didn't have them in my head, so I wanted to show them to you. So let me grab my sock blogger. And what I'm wearing, it's an H&M special. I did not make it, although I would love to try and copy it, if I'm honest, because it's fabulous. It's kind of hard to wear under things, but it's so thick. It's made of recycled polyester and recycled wool. It's so thick, and all of this frill, let me tell you, it's so warming. It's like having a shawl on without actually having to wear a shawl. So I wear this a lot when it's the perfect thing, when it's just warm enough, when it's just cold enough outside that you want to be cozy, but not so cold that you need a jacket. Because this is not ideal to have a jacket over. It's too much. Too much. But anyways, so I'm going to show you my FO because, gosh darn it, they're finally finished. Gosh darn it, they are finally finished. So I want to show them to you. Ta-da! And look how beautifully stunning. They're so happy that I got them out. That I got the podcasting stuff back out again for them. They're very pleased. And they're showing it by being stunning. I'm curious as to which one is the new one and which one's the old one. New and old meaning one of these I made and then took ages to make the second one. I think this is the new one, to be honest. I think my gauge was looser on this one. It also feels like there's more stitches. There's like flop here. I think I might have ended up with more stitches. Either way, they're gorgeous. They have I have the partridge heel. I did a stretchy long tail cast on, 2x2 ribbing. This is a general hog buffer pattern, And all of General Buffer's patterns, all of General Hog Buffer's patterns are free, and they're all beautiful and fabulous. I have so many in my favorites, but they are also all quite involved. So I only did half of the pattern, and then I gave up and tapped out because I just wanted to finish. But it still took me ages to make these. I'm so happy they're done. They're going to be my Christmas socks this year because they are green. I made them in River Knits wool, which is absolutely stunning. I recommend it to anyone. It is quite expensive, but it's hand dyed here in the UK, people who live on a boat, so I'm into it. And this is their blue-faced Leicester. It's 100% blue-faced Leicester, and it is soft and scrumptious, and I'm so happy that I have leftovers. I'm going to use them to make myself some more socks, and I couldn't be happier. So here's the pesky peskies. They are finally done. I'm going to take a picture, and they're done. But I'll jump right in. I'll show you my first finished object. Actually, I've changed my mind. I've decided I'm gonna go in order of like boring to interesting. So it's not quite finished objects then WIPs, because there's a lot of long-standing WIPs. So a couple that I won't show you is my Gibson Ruffle blouse. Nothing has happened. It's still in blouse form without sans fringe, sans ruffle. Sorry, not fringe. And then I'm not going to show you my Swan Lake socks because I have done like 2 or 3 rows on them, but it's like 2 or 3 rows on a sock, so not that interesting. But I have made some progress on my partner's Slipover. I'm in the middle of a row, so I can't show you how wide it is, but this is it sort of like folded in half. And this is just the front, so the front will be twice that width, and then the back will again be that width. So this is all done in fisherman's rib. This is the bottom here. I've got a selvage stitch along the side for the seaming. Since I learned to mattress stitch, I don't mind seaming at all. I used to hate it. It used to like keep me from finishing garments because it would look so bad. But I watched a video on mattress stitch and I'm quite happy to do it now because it's quite fun. Not that I've done it that much. I've done it once and it was successful and now I feel positively about it. That is all. So this is it. I did this. This is a self-drafted pattern. I have the design sort of in my notebook. Did it based on gauge and measurements of what my partner wanted. I did an Italian cast on, so it's nice and neat and stretchy. And I did 1x1 rib for about 6 centimeters. And then I've been doing fisherman's rib forever. Just fisherman's rib forever. My partner's really long in the torso, and she also, unfortunately, does not like to wear cropped garments. So that means the body takes forever. So yeah, this is like, she likes to wear her garments like sort of down here-ish, maybe not that low, but sort of here, and then she's very long in the body, so I reckon that the measurement I'm using is the ribbing needs to be up to my fist before I can start the decreases for the armholes. So from elbow to fist, I've got that much more to knit. I had initially thought that I would basically just double this. I think it might be a little less than doubling that, but yeah. So that's all. I just have some more length to show you, which is not overly exciting, but it's starting to look more like a slipover now, which is quite exciting. These stitch markers are not done in any sort of reasonable fashion. I think they were just done like, this was 1 week's worth of car knitting. It doesn't go quickly. Anyway, I just put them in sort of randomly. This was the beginning of the week, so this was, what day is today? It's Monday. So this was last Monday. So that was, yeah, 5 days of knitting in the car 20 minutes both ways. I think there was a couple times I had to actually do work in the car, so it might have just been 5 times 20, like 100 minutes of knitting got me this far. About an estimate. Anyways, I'm making it with a single ply mule spun yarn by Custom Woollen Mills that I got in a charity shop in Canada when I was working there over the summer. And this is my cone, if you're curious. This is how... It's not... Cones are fun, like you knit off them and they just really don't look like anything has happened. They're just like, what? You know, they don't look any smaller for a long time, which is cool. So I'm really hoping I have enough. Again, this was a charity shop, so I don't know, and I didn't have scales. I could do it and measure it now, but I haven't. I think this was a 500 gram cone, and I think it was partially used when I got it. So I'm hoping it's enough to make this slipover. I think it will be. I'm confident. So that's the progress on that. Then I was making a ranunculus for my friend to go with her little baby's ranunculus, her child's ranunculus, and she asked for it in olive green. So I got this Arwetta in olive green, which the color is 148. I'm still on the first. Am I? No, this is the second skein. Yes, it is. I think basically I did the yoke and sleeves with the first skein, and then the second skein I've just been doing the body, and my plan is to do a whole second skein on the body and then do the ribbing on the tail end of the third skein. I have to check. I've done a little modification on this, but here it is. It's looking very adult sized, which I'm quite pleased about, seeing as it is for an adult. I did had a little not obstructed by perfection moment, in which I was doing the raglan increases, and in the pattern, I don't think this is giving anything away, but the pattern has you have stitch markers obviously for the raglans, but then it also has you put a stitch marker at the center back. There are short rows, and I was just knitting away, and I was doing raglan increases around all of the stitch markers, including the center back one. So find my random increases, everyone. There they are. There's some random increases at the back there, but I'm not obstructed by them. I don't think they're that horrendous. They are at the very center and they are at the back, so this isn't like the most obvious thing. And the other thing is, my friend is kind of right on the cusp to almost being big enough around the bust to merit the larger size, because it's a one-size-fits-all pattern, the ranunculus, but and it's by Midori Hirose of Knit Cafe Midori. But Midori has done a adjustment for larger bust sizes. So for like this is a one size fits like anyone that's like a small, I would say extra small through large in different ways, right? Different levels of oversizedness. And then Midori's essentially made another an adjustment or a second pattern for anyone who's like above a large, extra large. So, and I think that part of the pattern, you get both when you buy the pattern. I think that part of the pattern has numerous sizes in it. So it's not a one size. So the initial pattern is a one size, and then the secondary adjusted pattern, I think, has 3 or 4 different sizes of varying. My point is, my friend's almost the right size to use the larger size adjustments, but just on the cusp. So because I'm a loose knitter, I tend to knit a size down. So I stayed with this, but because I did some increases, I thought, actually, that's a great idea. So I just did a few extra increases. I also did a few extra, I picked up more stitches than is asked for at the underarm. So essentially, and I think went too much with the increases for the sleeves, like I went too long. So the sleeves are a bit looser, the body's a bit wider, everything's a little bit bigger than the initial pattern. But it's looking lovely! I'm very excited. I'm not sure how long to make it, but I think I'm just going to go off of finish this skein and then do the ribbing in my third skein. I bought 4. So I think it'll be nice to use up 3 and then I'll have 1 for socks. So that's how this is going. It's very soft with Arwetta because it's such a loose gauge. The looser you knit something, the softer the fabric feels. Why is that? I don't know. I guess it's like a marshmallow. There's more air involved in the textural experience. I'm not entirely sure. I am using the 6mm needles. I usually have to go down a needle size because I'm a loose knitter, but weirdly, the first time I made this, I did make it in lace weight yarn, held single, but the first time I made it, I went up a needle size and it still came out like, you know, like an oversized 3-year-old garment. So I'm not sure what happened that time. But anyways, I'm a little confused about... I have so these are the short rows at the back, you can kind of see here. But it looks now, holding it up, this is the front, it looks like I have like random short rows just on one side of the front. You know what? It's fine. It's a beautiful, soft garment. It'll block out. Excuse me, I have some kind of like something in my throat. A little frog in the throat. I have not cast on the second Herbarium sock, so I have nothing to show there. Oh no, our tickets to the Barbican have just been cancelled. Those are those 2 WIPs. My partner's Slipover, it's gonna be sometime before that's even remotely done. But never mind, it is bottom up, so the longer sloggy bit is at the beginning. I just then have to do it all over again for the back. So I have no hopes of that getting done anytime in the near future, but it's, you know, plugging away. The next WIP I have is an HO, actually. This is my little project bag. I showed you, it's a sock. It's also a project bag. It's a sock check bag. Sock check bag. Soject bag. Soject bag. It's a soject bag. I use old socks that are like, this one's like a knee sock, but it's too loose now and falls down and the heel has holes in it. I use them as shoe covers for traveling because they're more clean as in like small than like using plastic bags. And also I don't really have plastic bags because you don't get them in the shops all the time anymore, so it's easier. Old socks, save them and use them as shoe covers. So my half and a bit finished object is the mitts I was talking about making last time. So I had a little bit of this left over from the Feel the Burn, which is a silk merino combo, very lush. I had a little bit of this yarn undyed Aran weight. So they're slightly different weights, these yarns, if you can see. This I would say is a DK, and this is about an Aran. A light Aran, I guess. So slightly different weights. And then I have this mohair from my Wednesday sweater. These 2 made my Wednesday sweater. And then this made the Feel the Burn that I made for my mum. So it was, I made it in half perfectly, and it was a very small amount of yarn. So I made these tiny little wristlets. And they're actually really cute. I really enjoy them. That's what they are. So I used an Italian cast on down here, and you can kind of see how the weight yarn is different weights because I did one stripe of the green between the whites. It's blowing out a bit, and you can kind of see that it like pulls it in, the green, a little bit because it's smaller. But it's the same pattern as I did on my alpaca mitts, just obviously a much smaller wrist area, but it's kind of cool. I don't have my watch on now, but it's kind of cool because like it doesn't, sometimes wristlets or mitts that are longer, I like them because they keep my wrist warm, but I always wear a watch and they get in the way of the watch, and these are like perfect watch width. So they're a nice like intermediate situation. I think they're really cute actually. So I'm very happy with them. I kept the mohair throughout, so the mohair is blending in with this green really nicely and then with the white. And that was exactly half of all of my stuff. This is what I have left, and this is the second one. So I'm just about there. And I basically knit until I run out of this white, and then I knit until I run out of this. And I'm still left with a little bit of mohair, which I'm going to use, I think, as a ruffle on a pair of child's socks, because I have a little bit left over from this mitt as well. I want to buy those for the Frill of It socks by Cat Weaver, I think, because hers have a little mohair ruffle on them. So I'll do that. And I think her sock pattern has like all sizes, like baby through adult. So that's my half finished object, half and a bit. Half and a half, I'd say. So I'm going to finish that before this weekend because they are a gift for my friend's daughter, whom I will see at the weekend. But I mean, these will be so fast, like I'm probably just going to finish them on the plane back to see my friend. I have to go back to Prague to see them. Never mind, it's fine. Complaining about going to Prague. Prague is lovely. Just seen a lot of it lately. So the next WIP, here's my little basket of things, of goodies. The next WIP is my Welcome to the Jungle. And believe it or not, folks, I am halfway through a row at the moment, which I really need to sort out. Stat. Because I was knitting this on the plane, 2.5 hours back from Prague to London, and I stupidly decided to try and go for a third row. I'd done 2 rows, which I was well pleased with. I did 1 row without ripping back at all, and then a second row where I ripped back about 5 times. It's always the increase round. It's the increase row. You know, every other row is an increase for the raglan at the moment, and it's the increase rows that get me every time. But yeah, so I went for a third, and I knew it wasn't going to happen. I knew a third row wasn't going to happen, so I had to stop halfway through because it was a plane. I couldn't just take extra time, but just like, give me another 45 minutes before I get off the plane. I have to finish this row. It wasn't going to happen. So I'm like a third of the way through a row at the moment, which is no good thing. I've like triple circled and written down on the paper where exactly which stitch I'm on, but I'm sure it'll cause havoc later. So here it is. This is how it's looking at the moment. I'm on row 9, I think. I think I worked out that when I'd finished row 5, I was a fifth of the way. I was a fifth of the way through the initial. What's this pattern called? Leopard print pattern? It's not very long, the initial bit. It's only like to here-ish. And then the middle bit is really long. Which kind of makes me sad. I kind of wished that the leopard print went down a little further so it was more even. But it's very much like leopard print for a very small bit. And then I'm not going to try and modify this pattern. Listen. We are not doing any modifications here. I did think going into it, oh, maybe I'll do the medium, but maybe I'll keep going on the yoke to make the yoke a little longer if I think it's not big enough and I want to try the large, because my partner's in between a medium and a large. But again, as I knit loosely, I generally go for the smaller size. But listen, I don't think I'm going to be messing around with this. I'm just going to be doing it and living with the consequences. So yeah, we've got a little bit of the front happening. A little bit of front stitches. It's this, yeah. So a little bit of some front stitches happening. And been increasing for the sleeve. This is the sleeve bit here. And then here's the back. So it's really cool. Here's the pink side with blue front and the blue side with pink in the background. It's actually, I thought I would like the blue spots on pink background better, but I think I kind of like pink spots on blue background better. I've only just now realized how to get my yarn in the right place for each row so that the spots are the dominant side. I'm not even going to try to explain. My brain is too tired at the moment. But anyways, I'm always so excited when I go to knit this. It's so exciting to knit because it's such a challenge. So I'm really excited to get back to it, and hopefully next time I'll have even more progress to show you. But it gets slower and slower each time because I'm adding stitches. But anyway, I'm doing it in Arwetta, 2 colors. This is my, this I got in Canada, in Banff. It's made by a indigenous maker who makes these bags, and they're perfect yarn bags because they're made of deerskin, so they're very like grabby, so the yarn doesn't like slide out and then you can just pull and it never goes anywhere. I'm not going to pull the yarn out and look at the colors, but yeah, it is done in Arwetta. Let's see if I can peek and tell you what colors I have. Peek on this side. Boop, boop, boop. It is, so the blue is 145 and the pink is 371. 145 and 371. So that's the progress on that. And then I've got, this was my random cast on that I did this morning. I've done this morning. I've cast it on either twice or 3 times because my gauge is pretty loose. I had to go down a needle size and go down 2 pattern sizes, so I'm making the extra small, but it's going to come out at around a medium, I would say. This, I've talked about this before as wanting to make it, and I've shown you the yarn I wanted to use. This is called the Chunky Vest by Witre Design, and I'm making it in my avocado dyed merino, which is the leftovers from my Wednesday sweater, and it's an Aran weight, so it's held double, combined with, this is Leo and Roxy. I got this in Canada. It's called Eat Your Algae, and it's silk mohair, and it's a beautiful pink color. And the color in the pattern, if you look up the pattern, it's a sort of a pinkish color, and I was just like, I love that color, I love that pattern, I want to make it. So that's what I had it. I've had it in my queue for a really long time, and I'm now just decided on making it. I was gonna make that other pattern that I actually had bought, but for some reason I just was more in the mood of this. I think it was because I was putting my yarn away and I got this out and I looked at it, and I don't know. We just move on. This is chunkier than the other slipover that I wanted to make. So here it is. It's a button-up slipover vest, so it's done back and forth in brioche, and this looks huge, but I put it around myself earlier, and I'd say it's just about right. It's chunky. It's going to have a much more tightly knit, double thick, I think just stockinette, so rolled stockinette edge on here and here. So that'll bring the fabric in quite a bit, I would guess. Cinch it in a bit. And it's going to be really cool. So it's looking quite nice. I was hoping that the silk mohair would like bring out the avocado tones, and I think it has actually. I was worried it was gonna overwhelm the avocado colors, which are quite subtle, but I don't think it has, because there are 2 strands of the avocado mohair, avocado merino, and the only one tiny little thin strand of the Eat Your Algae. So I'm quite happy with it. I have to knit probably about 3 more rounds, or 3 more rows, and then start doing some stuff for the sleeves, I would assume. Yeah, it's really cute, I think. And what else was I going to say? One thing I love about brioche is it's actually easier to knit back and forth than in the round. Little top tip there for you, because you don't have to purl if you knit it back and forth, whereas in the round you do. And in the round it can be confusing, the place where the round changes, for me. Maybe for other people not at all, but for me, I can find it confusing, the place where you change from the end of one round to the beginning of the next one. I can sometimes mess that up. I talked about that when I showed my September jacket that I was working on. I'm not sure which podcast that was. But back and forth, it's very straightforward. So yeah, it feels so soft and squishy, but it's super wash, so it has that silky feel, which is really soft, but it just makes me feel like, oh, it's gonna get so huge. So we'll see. You know, I'm in it for the journey. We'll see what happens with it. So that's my random new cast on. Not entirely random, because I did talk about it, but it wasn't my plan to cast that on. But here is my random FO, which I cast on and finished very recently. I have been talking about doing this, but I did finally do it. It is a Tam for my auntie, who I'm going to see at Christmas. And I was really happy with how it turned out. I made it in a really... this is... Both of these yarns that I used are hand spun by myself. They're both woolen prepared, so they're not combed. They were both just carded instead of combed. So it's woolen yarn, not well spun. I'm not a great spinner. This particular section is a very tightly spun section. There are some very loosely spun sections, and there are some more tightly spun sections. But I would say this is not as well spun as this. This one is more relaxed. Like, you can see it just like, it's more nicely prepared, I would say. I may have finished this yarn where I definitely didn't finish this yarn. It just doesn't look relaxed, if you can tell. I generally don't finish yarn because I didn't know that there was such a thing as finishing yarn and how to do it. But then I learned about it and I started doing it a bit. So I think this feels like it's been washed, and like it's... I don't know if it... Yeah, it kind of smells like it's been washed as well. They're both very woolly. This fibre was a gift from my partner, and I spun it up. And this fibre, I think I just bought a random bit of fibre when I first got my spinning wheel, which was also a gift from my partner. Such a wonderful enabler. This is all I have left of this yarn. So when I made it, I had in my head that I really wanted a 2-color ribbed crown. No, not crown. Band. And so this was a similar weight-ish. So I was like, I'm going to do that because I have plenty, because I'm using this to make my dad a 1898 hat, which I still haven't done, but it's a 12th night gift, so I have plenty of time. But I knew I had quite a lot of it, so I thought I had enough to make just this bit. So this is 2-colored ribbing. The pearls are done in the brown, and the knits are done in the mustard. I did an Italian cast on, but I'm not entirely pleased with how it turned out. I had to do it so many times, partially because the stitch numbers were wrong and partially because I kept making it so that the knit was on the brown side and the purl was on the mustard side. But even when I did fix it, it still has this weird, I don't know. There's probably other ways to cast on for 2-color ribbing, and I would like to experiment with them. But this isn't yet blocked, so I think it'll look nicer when it's blocked. But I wanted to show it to you before I washed it. That's the inside. So I did this 2-color, and that was my idea. I wanted 2-color ribbing, and then I wanted a plain mustard hat with a little boop at the top. But as I got round, I think I made, well, no, I don't think so. I think it's a nice length, the length of the hat before I started decreasing. I started going, I don't think I'm going to have enough. So I did sort of in the back of my head think, if I don't have enough of the mustard, because I didn't know, I had no idea how much I had. I didn't measure how many yards I had of it, because I spun it myself. And so I thought, well, it's a lucky thing I put this on the beginning because I can just add some of the brown and then it can be 2-color. And then once I run out of the yellow, I can just finish it with entirely brown. Obviously, you can tell that I never ran out of the yellow, which is slightly frustrating to me. I probably could have maybe finished it in this color, or maybe not. Because what I did was I added the brown and I put 2 stitches in between because I thought I had enough yellow to at least do the 2 stitches and then do the decrease to 1 stitch before I had to start the brown, because I was about to do another round of decreases. So it starts with 2 stitches and then immediately decreases, but then I did the amount of stitches I needed and then I needed to do another decrease, and I didn't want to decrease with still holding the yellow because it would just look unclean. You know, because decreasing 2 yellows in between the browns looks fine, you know, looks great. But decreasing a yellow with a brown was just going to get messy, so I just cut the yellow and finished it with brown. I was just a little sad that I ended up with leftovers, because I prefer to finish a project and have no leftovers. But anyway, this isn't a leftover because it's going to get used in the other project. I have loads of that yarn. So this is what it looks like. I have a very big head. But since it's not washed yet, I can show you because it'll come back into shape when it's washed, because this is very woolly and non-superwash wool. I made it with 3.75 needles, so it's very thick yarn. I would say it's about worsted weight, if not almost bulky sometimes. But 3.75 needles to make it really, really dense so that it kind of sits how you might want it to sit. So I'll show you. Looking very Scottish with my tam. But that's my tam. Very cute. I tried it on yesterday and my partner was like, a tam is not the look for you. And I was like, rude. But yeah, little sunburst tam for you. Very pleased with it. Doesn't really fit me. It's too small for me, but it's not for me. But yeah, I got the tam fever when I made that scarf and tried it on as a tam. So I really enjoyed making this. I would love to make another tam. So we shall see. We shall see. I also read, I read that the way you block a tam is to put it on a circular piece of cardboard, so I'm very excited to do that for some strange reason. I don't know why. I guess putting knitting on flat things is just fun to me for some reason. So I'm gonna find where I packed my wool wash. Once I find it, I'm going to give this little guy a bath, and I'm going to put him on this piece of cardboard, and then this cardboard is going to become very moist. but that's okay, I guess. I was going to do a little thing, but I thought it looked too much like a pumpkin if I did a little... And then my partner was like, oh, just do it in mustard. And I was like, no, that will look weird too. So I just made it flat. Anyways, I might even wrap it on this cardboard because it's very pleasing. So that's real. This is the last of the Christmas gifts that need to be given on Christmas. So we're good. All the rest of these gifts are for 12th night, which is the 5th of January. So I have a pair of Christmas socks to make for my partner, which I don't know if I will. I'll either decide I'm going to do them and just do them, or I'll just kind of relaxedly do them. I'm not sure. I think it might be the former. I might decide I'm going to do them for Christmas and just like do them, but we'll see. They're going to be a little bit daring because the heel, and I don't have quite enough yarn to do the whole sock. I'm doing green and white. Don't have enough yarn, and I bought 2 balls of Arwetta to do that, but I don't have enough yarn to make the whole bit in green that needs to be green. I have enough yarn for the white bits, so that's fine. Which means I'm going to do the heels and toes in the red from my Herbarium socks. However, I haven't finished the second Herbarium sock. So what I need to do is weigh my Herbarium sock yarn, see how much is left from the original quantity, and make sure I leave that same amount of yarn to make my second sock with. But I will use that for the heels and toes, because I think I'll have more than enough to make the heels and toes in that color. The other thing I could do, I guess, is use my pescatarian, but I don't want to because I want pescatarian yarn for myself. So anyway, that's a plan. It hasn't started yet, but I think it may be about to. And since I'm here, I'll show you, I mentioned the Christmas socks and that I was gonna either be relaxed and probably not finish them for Christmas or bust them out before Christmas. Well, it's looking, folks, it's looking like I'm trying to do the busting, because I did this yesterday. I cast them on and I started them. So this is the Christmas Eve sock pattern. So hopefully they will be finished by Christmas Eve. Sadly, my partner has a size 10 foot. What is she doing with such a large foot? Why? But the foot always does feel like it goes by much quicker for some reason. It's just going to be a repeat of these two color work patterns for the rest of the sock. And then some more of this red. This was my Herbarium sock red. So I have weighed it. I have this, the first sock was 37 grams, so I'm giving myself 40 grams that I need to save back for the second sock. The story is I used this yarn to make one sock. I have to make the second, but I'm now using it for heels and toes on these socks, so I'm a little bit cautious because I haven't made the second sock yet. It's a little off-piste, but there we go. The Filcolana knits up really lovely for socks, the Arwetta. It's really, really soft, and I'm hoping it'll be stretchy enough. The only other pair of colorwork socks I made with my own hand-dyed yarn, and they're very tight. They are very cozy, but very tight, because I didn't understand about the fact that colorwork doesn't stretch as much as normal work. Non-color work. Color work. Not as much stretch because you have those floats. But anyways, that's what it's looking like. There's my floats. So I'm hoping to get a fair portion of this foot done. Look at the gusset. Isn't that cute? A little gusset stripy poos in there. as you combine the, and this is a tree, it's like, the tree is like getting zippered together slowly. On this side, I guess it's a bit more reasonable looking because it's just in between trees, but this is a tree that is zippering itself together. What was I saying? Oh, we're going to see carols today in Westminster Abbey. I'm so excited. My partner works for the Metropolitan Police and they get tickets to see caroling in Westminster Abbey. It's a ballot, so it's like a lottery, whoever gets it. So I'm really excited that and very privileged to get to accompany her to see some carols. So I won't bring this because I won't be able to look at it, but I'll probably bring the ranunculus and do some straight up knitting. Anyways, that's your little sock update. These got finished a while ago, that's why I had packed them and forgotten. I knew I was forgetting something. And then I was in the charity shop dropping off some things because I have too many of them. And I got a couple big bags of things. And then I was in the charity shop and I found these balls of sock yarn. Look at how beautiful. And these are perfect because I wanted to make some DK socks with the navy alpaca. But I didn't have any sock yarn. If you recall, I had one ball that my partner had bought for her own socks that she had requested. So I felt bad using hers. So now I have this, which is great. It was £1 a piece from the, I think it was Red Heart charity shop. It is 80% wool, 20% nylon. Very clearly an older, slightly vintagey. Only from the, like, you can tell from the colour of the sellotape. But also like the font, you can kind of tell it's vintage, but 8% wool, 20% nylon. Nice. 4 socks and 2 little 50-gram balls. Does it say how much is on these 50-gram balls? 25. Oh no, they're 25 grams. I don't know if they're going to be enough for 2 men's socks. Oh, I did not notice that. They're only 25 grams. Oh, never mind. Well, we'll see what I do. It's sock yarn, so they'll become socks. They just might not be a solid colour, one solid colour. They might need to have some heels, toes and cuffs and other colours, which is cool. I like that. I have various other scraps that I can do. Might be fun to do a sock that's a solid colour, but just scrappy heels, toes and cuffs. So like the heels, toes and cuffs don't match at all and they're all just different random things. Because then I would use the navy alpaca throughout the whole thing. So there would be some kind of similarity. Anyway, so let me get these things back in my little basket to take downstairs. I also have some mending in this basket that I need to do. My partner very, very considerately keeps all of the things she needs mended for me to do when I get home. It's very thoughtful of her. So I have a shirt that needs a button that she gave me, and she was like, I don't have the button, so it's like, I'll sort it out. So I'm going to show you the things I'm going to wrap up. This is just a bag of presents my partner got for her nieces and nephews. That's why I'm not really sitting down properly. But the first thing is my Minerva tee. This I made not too long ago, and it's in alpaca, lacy sleeves, and color work at the bottom, a little split hem and a little lowered hem at the back. This is going to my lovely little sister. And this here is the same yarn I used in my mitts. The alpaca that I hand spun on my drop spindle. And I'm also going to show you a little bit of drop spinning because I promised I would. Okay. Excuse me. That was, I'm sure, incredibly entertaining. So, this is my big box of knits for people. And other presents. Oh, they're slightly damp. Never a good thing. Anyway, this... Oh, very damp. This is no good. This is the Terrazzo neck I made for my sister last year for Christmas, and never gave it to her because we never saw each other for Christmas. It is knit in one ball of West Yorkshire Spinners Retreat. And I will show you. I'll try it on just because why not? It's a very, very fine looking item, isn't it? And it is a collar. Very fine indeed. So that is also for my sister. Yeah, it's a color I think she'll really like. I really like the color as well. So that is that. I've got a pair of jogging bottoms. This is the pickles pattern for jogging bottoms, and I made this in, this is just about 1 kilo of boucle wool, and it is for my cousin, a pair of jogging bottoms. They have pockets. The pattern is great, really easy to follow. Pockets. Somehow I made the pockets 2 different sizes. Not obstructed by perfection, my friends. But one pocket is deeper than the other. It's just, you just put your bigger things in the other pocket. That's fine. But these are them in this sort of sagey green color. They should be super cozy, and I hope my cousin very much loves them. And it's her mother that I made the tam for. And then we have a couple of fun items. I don't know what that is or who it's for. There's something that's wrapped up that I don't even know who it's for. So this is a pattern called the Hypnosis mittens, and they are crazy. You start, this is all I-cord on I-cord on I-cord, and I think you start at the thumb and you go out. I think you might even make the thumb and then knit this I-cord out, and then it's a paid for pattern. I couldn't explain it to you in a way. Anyways, they look really silly. I didn't do them very well. I can tell you that now for free. But here they are, they're opposite, and they are totally bonkers. This was scraps of sock yarn. My partner has a pair of socks in this color, and someone has a pair of socks in this color. My friend's baby also has a hat in this color. I somehow managed to stretch sock yarn, let me tell you, like, it just stretches and stretches. But they look much more reasonable once they're on, because they're, you know, stretched on your hand. But they're still pretty crazy. There's a little ruching going on here, because I did this part very badly. Very badly indeed. Maybe it's better this way around. My mum is going to love them. She's going to be obsessed with them. This one is definitely smaller than this one. But, you know, I mean, when you've got a pair of mittens this crazy, you gotta be happy with what you get. I really should redo this bit, but I wouldn't even know where to begin with redoing it. All the ruching on the hand. I mean, ruching could be a design element if I had done it on this side, but I did not. I mean, they're so crazy. So crazy. but I'm in love with them. I'm just a little sad that they're not done more, like, with more finesse. Anyway, those are for my mum. And then also for my mum, let me get out my sock blockers, because I made her a pair of stockings. I love that I'm now a knitter that has sock blockers. So here are the stockings. I believe they're called Berlin... I can't remember. I have it on my Ravelry, so I think I can show you. But they are very long. But I'll show you on here so you can see the pattern. There's a pattern on the side of the stocking, which I enjoy. And that was kind of the reason I made them. They're done in, I don't know, I guess like half broken rib, maybe? Oh, I could actually use a bigger, let me get a bigger one. They're so pretty. They look so like bleh, but once you get them on the sock blocker, they look so pretty. A little bit of chaotic noise for you. Nothing but chaos. So here they are going on. A little bit of sunlight for you as well. How about that? But yeah, I think broken rib always just ends up looking so beautiful, doesn't it? It's funny I do things and then forget. It's like if I had remembered I'd made these, I would have been like, I need to make more socks in broken rib. This really looks nice. But I just move through life with a certain level of awareness. It's not the largest level. So I've actually increased slightly for the toe because my mum has some problems with her toes. So giving her more room in the toe is good. But I did this with 2 pairs of Regia that I got off eBay for... Oh, I forgot to say as well, the boucle I used for the jogging bottoms, I got the kilo of boucle from a really great eBay seller who sells unnamed, unbranded, generally always British spun and British wool in huge quantities, like a kilo or 500 grams. And I got that whole bag for £14. I got the same bag to make my partner a hoodie, a brown hoodie, and then I just bought that green one as well just because I was like, it was kind of a random impulse because I was like, it's only £14! So anyways, the whole pair of jogging bottoms, 100% wool, boucle, £14. Great. So I got this off eBay for I think £3 for the 2 balls. It's the denim, the Retreat in denim. And so these are stockings. So they're supposed to go over the knee is the concept. And the pattern, I've done a little pattern halfway up. I don't actually think this is a pattern. I think I've just lied to you. I think I just made this up. I found a pattern in a stitch dictionary and just added it to the side. And then just did the increases for... It's a little diamond pattern. It didn't turn out as interesting looking as I was hoping it would. I kind of did a whole background section of pearls to show it, but in this yarn you may be thinking like, oh, the light, I can't see you can't see the thing very well. It's not the light, it's just that this design didn't work out super well. But yeah, overall I love the sock. The stitch that I used, I don't know, it's ribbing where the middle bit of the rib instead of purl is seed stitch basically. So it's like you do knit 2, purl 1, knit 1. Then when you go around again, it's knit 2, knit 1, purl 1, knit 2, purl 1, knit 1, knit 2, knit 1, purl 1, if that makes sense. Heel flap and gusset. Oh no! What is this? Honestly, folks, I don't even know. It might be a shadow wrapped heel. I'm not entirely sure what kind of heel I made here. Or it might just be a wrap and turn. Definitely has a gusset. Ladies and gentlefolk. I don't actually remember what kind of heel I made, but it looks quite cool. Maybe I did make a pattern. I made really long ribbing so that it would hug over the knee well. And I tried to do a really stretchy bind off so that it would go over the knee. My mum's got pretty small legs, so that's these socks. I'm pretty into them, pretty excited by them. I might cut out some cardboard and make a little cutout so that I can present them in this beautiful form. They haven't been blocked. I could maybe also block them. That might... Would that stretch them out a bit, make them look a little bit more intriguing, more enticing? Did I have to redo these? I think I did. Yeah, because I think when I first made them, I made them the same. I made the little pattern on the same side of the heel. So then they weren't like on the outside for both, but I redid it, thankfully. Part of me was waiting to find out that I did not redo it and that I just made it like that on both sides. But no, I redid it. Good for me. So that's those. I should have one other piece of knitting here to show you. Okay, it seems that knitting is somewhere else. Back we go to dive. Found it. So this is for my uncle. And this is a cabled slipover. It is very sheepy, very woolly. The pattern is Licorice Vest, I think, by, I'm not sure where they're from. I think Italy. So is it Joji Locatelli? I think it's Joji Locatelli. I just noticed that this little cactus has almost hit the top of the shelf that it's growing in. That would be quite sad. Don't want it to bang its head. Anyway. Yes, I made it in a bulky weight yarn that I got off eBay. Again, it was around £14 for the 1 kilo of yarn. And it's very sheepy. It's been washed, I think, twice and blocked to try and get it to soften up. And it's softened a bit, but it's pretty intense. It's a thick piece of yarn. So yeah, this is the slipover. It's for my uncle. I hope it fits him. I couldn't tell you for sure if it will. And I'm not entirely sure if he's gonna like it either. But hey ho. It's definitely thick and warm. And it's a nice color. So yeah. Lots of thick, warm woolens for my family this year. And if I had someone to give this to, I would, but I don't know who would want this. This is my pink mod tee that I made myself, which is just, you know, it's lived its life with me and I think it's ready to go live a life with someone else now, but I'm just not sure who. I really like the yarn, the alpaca. I like the color of it. I like that it's this darker pink with a little bit of a lighter pink in it. What I don't like about it is that it's heavy. Alpaca does tend to be heavier because it doesn't have as much loft, so there's more fiber. There's just more fiber everywhere. With less loft, you have more fiber. If you don't have, like, air, it's stuff, you know? It's like the difference between a marshmallow and a sweetie. Like a marshmallow is a lot of air, so it's light, and a sweetie is not a lot of air, so it's heavy. That was my basic understanding. Basic explanation. But anyways, I don't know who would like this, who would fit it, and so it's just going to sit around waiting to find out. So, drop spindle. I'm very excited about this actually, because I got some sample yarn. Not yarn. I bought some blue-faced Leicester from a really wonderful seller who sells fiber and yarn, and I've met her. She also does a lot of plant collecting, so she's fabulous. Her name is Kathleen, and she oh, this wasn't from her. Anyways, she's fabulous. I recommend her. I did buy some blue-faced Leicester from her. This wasn't the place that gave me this. It was a place I got some merino to make a wall I spun a bunch of wool for my partner's sister for a wall hanging for her house. So I just spun a whole bunch of like my version of spinning wool, which is very like curly and thick thin, and it works really well for a wall hanging because it's quite interesting texturally. Some were single, some were 2-ply, some were chain plied. So anyway, I did that, and when I ordered all this merino in different colors, the seller sent me this little sample, which is called a rolag. It looks like a snail. It's a different way of preparing wool, basically, and it has some sparkle in it. So it's the perfect festive thing to spin. I don't know why the sparkle's all on one end. And I don't know how to spin sparkle into wool, to be perfectly honest with you. But my way of looking at things is only one way to find out. Well, there's multiple ways to find out. You could learn, you could watch, you could read. But generally, my way to find out is just to go for it. So this has been combed and carded, but then it's been put into this little roll, and you spin off the edge of it. So a lot of people use a piece of yarn to start out spinning, which is what I think it's what a lot of people do. I don't like to say you're supposed to do this, because that feels like then there's like one way to do things, and there isn't. That's the whole point of knitting and yarn and fiber, is that there's not one way to do things. There's many ways to do things. So I always like to be mindful of that when I talk about it, because it's kind of fun to say like, that's how you're supposed to do it, but I don't do it that way. But it's just not accurate. That's the way many people do it. And it's perhaps less common to do it this way, but I always start with, instead of tying my fiber to a pre-made piece of yarn on the spindle, I just spin by hand. And this is another way of spinning some people do, is just to spin. Literally just pull it off and spin it, and not use any kind of tool whatsoever. And there are many cultures that have used this as a way to spin. So once I have some yarn that I've spun by hand, I attach it to the bottom of my spindle, and I usually just tie a knot. It'll come out when I'm finished. The knot will come out. It's not gonna stay forever. It just needs to be strong enough to last a few turns. And usually I'll turn it as well, so that I'm turning it over the edge of the knot. And then I get it so that the yarn comes over into this hook. So I'll show that again. The yarn comes behind the back of the hook and up and into the hook. And this is a spindle. This is an Ashford hand spindle, which I got when I first learned to spin. And I got it in a fiber show. Sorry, someone's making noise outside of my boat. Oh, it's my neighbor coming out of her boat. So then what you do is, I'm gonna get sparkle all over me. You spin it, and then you draft it. And the weight of the spindle pulls the yarn and then you spinning it spins it. It's pretty simple. And when the spindle gets too low and you need to bring it up again, you take it off. So I've made some yarn, I take it off here and I spin it around this little bit down here until I have enough to, maybe one more, attach it here, and then I go again. I spin it and I pull that off. So it got a little bit thick, and it sometimes does, the like restarting the spinning sometimes makes it get a little bit thick, but my opinion is when you're new at something, it's really bad practice to be perfect at it when you're new. You should really be not great at it. So you should have thick, thin yarn if you're not an experienced spinner like myself. So I think I'm spinning very, very nicely, thick and thin. I'm actually much more experienced with a drop spindle than I am with an actual spinning wheel. And again, I would hesitate to say actual because that makes it feel like a drop spindle is like a lesser version of a spinning wheel, where in fact it is not. It is a perfectly valid, viable way to spin yarn, and it is a perfectly honored way of spinning yarn. So this is an actual spinning device. I'm going to try and tilt the camera lower to show you how I generally spin, which is by using my knee. I just don't have a lot of space because boat. So I use my knee like this and I spin, and that makes it go a little bit faster. And then I'll go again. And so this you don't generally want. That's like, it's too twisted. But never mind. And the slower you spin it, the more time you have to draft. So, and drafting is when you see there's a bit of thickness right there. Drafting is when you pull the yarn from this big thing into this smaller thing. And to get it even takes a lot of practice, but it also is slightly easier to do when you have more time. So going at this pace is good. But if I spin the spindle too quickly, then I have to get the yarn ready faster because otherwise it overspins it, if that makes any sense. So spinning the spindle slowly means that I have more time to organize the yarn. And the way that you tell if you have the right thickness is basically just by feel. Like it's all going through your finger, so you'll feel when it feels like, oh, that's too much. Or, oh, that's too little. You can kind of feel it. It's interesting that the little sparkly bits are kind of falling off of that into the main yarn. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do. I don't know. I'm basically just getting the sparkly bits all over myself. Well, there's some that has like sparkles straight throughout. That's nice. I've got no idea how to spin with sparkly stuff. Absolutely none. Whee! So I used to do this in the car. That's how I spun a lot of my alpaca. I spun it all on this drop spindle right here. It's a great little tool, and it's really fun, and it's quite addictive. It's really fun to spin yarn, and it doesn't take much to spin enough to use for something. That alpaca has been now, it's made an entire cowl, and then it's been inside of that Minerva t-shirt, And it's made a pair of mitts, so for, you know, I'd say that was about maybe a 3 weeks worth of drop spindling. 3 weeks, I got 3 garments out of it. I'm not really showing you much, am I? Sorry. Too focused on actually doing the thing. And it's creating some cool colors. It's fun to spin yarn that's been dyed in the wool, kind of like spin cycle. I think that's what it's called, right? Dyed in the wool. Because especially when it's like this, you don't really know how the colors are going to turn out. The other wool that I'm spinning on my wheel that I'm making the blanket with, that is all 4 or 5 solid colors, which I'm then sort of combining myself, so I kind of have more control over how the colors come out. But in these kind of bats of dyed yarn, you don't really know how the colors are gonna come out until you spin it, basically, which is really fun. I'm just covered in essentially tinsel at this point. Yep, just covered in sparkle. And eventually you fill up this whole thing all the way down to here, and it starts like coming out the sides, and then you have way too much yarn and you have to take it all off, ball it up, and if you want it in 2-ply, you do this twice and then you ply the 2 together on here, which can be quite difficult because obviously the 2-ply is twice as thick as the 1-ply, so to keep it all on here can be difficult. But it's coming out really pretty. And this was specifically to show, this was because I think it was Woolly, sorry if I've forgotten your screen name, I think it was Woolly Badger, mentioned that they had a sheep, a Romney sheep and a goat that they wanted to spin the wool, and they had a drop spindle, so I said that I would show them how to do it, or how I do it. Again, there's not a right way to do things, there's just lots of ways. Some ways work better than other ways for you, or for me, or for other people. Oops. I think very specific portions of this are going to be sparkly, and all the rest is just going to be not. That's okay, because I don't even know what this is going to be used for. It's a very random quantity. I think it was like maybe 5 or 10 grams, like not even, I don't think it was even 10 grams to be fair. Come on, stick on there, you sparkly bits. Anyone has any tips on how to employ sparkly bits in your spinning? Do let me know. I don't know how many more future sparkly spinning projects I have planned, but, you know, always interested. I would liken it to when you make cookies and you're like, how do you know that the dough is the same size? And you're like, well, you can just kind of tell. That's how you tell if you've got the right amount of wool for whatever you're spinning, if that makes any sense. You can just kind of tell with your hands. You ask your hands and they say, yeah, that feels about the same as the last 10 minutes have been feeling. And that's kind of how you carry on, basically. And I guess that's why it's called a drop spindle, because as you spin, the spindle drops. There's the colors coming out. It's a very odd thing, just like a random amount of... Ooh, no, 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 no! Let's grab the bottom of the other one. I'll just let it unroll to let it out. Alright. And we move on. That got a little bit thin there because of that little debacle. We'll go again. And when you have sort of thick thin, for some reason, this must be physics or something, when you spin, the yarn, if like half of this length was really thick and half of it was really thin, if I kept spinning the spindle, it would only twist the thin bit and not the thick bit, for some reason. Like, it obviously would twist the thick bit a bit, but it would, any excess twist always goes into the thinner bit of yarn. That's been my experience. I'm not entirely sure why. I guess it's the easier thing it's easier to spin thin stuff than thick stuff, so I guess that's why that happens naturally. So I think that's probably why, like, people make really thick thin yarn, it's generally not super strongly spun, because that would probably make it very uneven in its spinningness. It probably didn't make any sense. Oops. There's a little chunk bit coming down. The other thing about spinning is it's much easier, so I'll try and show you I don't know about the terms of spinning. I'm going to tilt this back up again so you can see more my draw. But basically you have the spinning and then you have the, like, separating the fiber to make a small amount that you can spin. And that's this portion of the activity. Whoops. I've just made it way too thin. When I make it too thin like that, I just kind of like pull it on top of itself to kind of make it double thick, or I break it and lay it on top of itself like that. So no, let it unspin. Whee! Okay, this is fun. So, what was I saying? I was saying that this bit, stop it! This is very irritating. Okay. You hang out there. So I was saying that this portion of the activity, which I'm doing very poorly at the moment, let me just take this off and get it all round up. So this portion of the activity, where I'm pulling the yarn and making it thinner before it spins, is called, I think it's called your draw. And that's the bit that takes practice. That's the bit that you need to practice to get sort of into your body, because the tendency is to hold the yarn really close, like to hold on to the stuff really close to where your other hand is, and that's actually makes it really difficult to pull it apart. Because if you've ever pulled apart, if you've ever like taken like anything that's unspun, or even yarn really, and tried to pull it apart with your hands close together, it's really difficult. But if you take your hands and separate them and try to pull it, it's much easier. I don't know if you've had that experience. If not, give it a try and see if I'm right. Take some yarn that's like definitely wool, and preferably unspun, you'll notice it more strongly. it's much easier to pull apart with your hands farther apart, and that's because you're spinning fibers that have a certain length, and if you keep your hands far enough apart that they're farther than the length of the fiber, then you'll be able to pull them apart. But if your hands are so close that they're like, basically the difference is, instead of trying to rip a fiber in half, you're just separating some fibers from other fibers, which is a much easier task than trying to rip a fiber in half. So like, for this pile of stuff, for example, if I were to try and break it with my hands like this, I'm trying to break actual fibers of plastic, right? Which seems to be quite easy. But if I were to hold my hands further away and do this, I'm just separating fibers from other fibers, and that's a lot easier to do. Whereas if I did this and tried to pull it, it's much, much harder and much stronger. So it's the same thing with wool. When you're spinning it, you're just separating the fibers to make them thinner, because you don't want the whole thing of wool to be this fat. So the further you hold your hand away, the easier it is to separate the fibers, the less strength you'll need, and therefore the more control you'll have, in my experience. So I keep my hand sort of there-ish. Sometimes, if there's like a big old pile up, I have to bring my hand in to kind of sort out the pile up, sort out the traffic jam. But the rest of the time, I just kind of let it go, and it pulls itself to a nice width, and my fingertips kind of decide, yep, that's the right width, that's the same. And interestingly, I think I get better, maybe because it's slower, I think I get better consistency with my drop spindle than I do with my hands, with my, I don't know what you call the other type of wheel. A wheel? Spinning wheel, yes. So I get better consistency with my drop spindle, and I get a thinner single. I say that as I make a big chunky thick bit. Than I do with my wheel. At the moment. I'm sure that can and would change. Here's a little chunky bit, and if I'm actually trying to keep it nice and consistent, I would do that, which would then make that happen! Meow. You gotta catch it before it starts going the opposite direction again. Fantastic. You never have to worry about your spinning breaking because it's unspun. So it's the same as when people talk about, the unspun pletilope or the nutidin. It's very easy to put back together, which is the same with fiber when you're spinning it. Periodically just gathering sparkle off the floor and just sort of, sprinkling it onto this yarn. Someone hopefully will tell me that I'm doing it all terribly, terribly wrong, and there's a much easier way to add sparkle to my spinning. Again, this was never a goal I had, was to know how to add sparkle to my spinning. It was just a freebie I was given when I bought something else, so I'm rolling with it. I do love a sparkly sock. Maybe this could become a very fabulous cuff on some. I don't know if it would be enough to make a cuff. It might be enough to make one heel. That would be quite funny. Or one toe. Maybe a toe would be better. We'll see what it becomes. To be my podcast toe. The toe that I spun whilst podcasting. And whenever I look at it, I shall remember you. Oh, podcast viewer. I feel as if it maybe has to become a toe now. Ooh, that was dangerous. I almost dropped the tail into the front again. Trying to keep it on my wrist. I remember when I was spinning that huge thing of alpaca, I think I must have had a little wrist basket. Yeah, I think I must have had a little wrist basket that I kept the fibre in, so I could just sort of pull it out of the wrist bag or whatever as I was spinning, and it stayed away from the actual spinning area. So yeah, this is called a drafting, and I think there's, from watching Roxanne Richardson talk about her spinning journey, I think there's a thing called a long draw and a short draw. I don't really understand what the difference is. It's probably to do with different types of fiber, and I've almost exclusively, well, no, I spun alpaca, and then I've spun a lot of merino. So that's only one type of fiber, and they have a certain length. The staple length is how long the fibers are, and obviously that affect merino fibers are pretty long, I think. So you have to hold your hand quite far away from your other hand in order to separate the fibers easily. And I just haven't done a lot of spinning of other types of fibers. I did spin a little bit of Blueface Leicester, which I absolutely adored. I love Blueface Leicester. I love knitting with it. I love spinning it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful fiber. It's soft, but in my opinion, it has more bounce than merino does. Like, it has more squish factor. But it still has the same amount of soft factor. So yeah, I'm not actually sure what this fiber is, apart from sparkliness. Let's see if it says on the bag. Where'd that bag go? Here it is. It says it's merino, and Rolag includes dyed merino and Corriedale with sparkle and silks. So there might be some silk as well. The sparkle, yeah, the sparkle is not silk. The sparkle is plastic sparkle. And it's hand dyed. And this is from, it's someone I found on eBay. Can you tell where I do most of my yarn shopping? Shunkleys.co.uk. I'll show you. I've ripped it to open it, but let me put it back together and show you. A little thank you from me to you, Rolag. That's what the little snail thing is called. Rolag includes wool. Rolag includes hand-dyed merino and Corriedale wool, sparkle and silk from shunkleys.co.uk. So we're nearing the end, my friends. And wow, I just looked at the time on the camera and it said 2:55, and I thought, surely not, I haven't been here for 2 hours and 55 minutes, that's insane. And then I realized that I paused and started a new video, and it's been 2 minutes 55 seconds. That's far more reasonable. I did make myself a pot of tea before sitting down to podcast, and I have clearly, very obviously, not drunk any of it. I haven't even poured it into my cup. So, fantastic. That's because it's far too, what's the word? It's far too, there's too much stuff in here to even move around, let alone notice that I had tea sitting over at the coffee table over there. Here we go. Nearing the home stretch. And I think when you have like nips in things, or nibs, what are they called? Neps? Neps. Those little fluffy bits in wool, I think it's basically like pieces of wool that are thick and not combed well. And then they don't basically comb into the fiber, so when you spin it, they just stay as little like baubles of wool, basically. I've never like spun tweedy wool or tried to make neps and things, but that's just my postulating guess on the matter. Oh, the little red section, fun. So yeah, absolutely no idea what this is enough yarn to do with, but hey, you know, we'll just have fun with it. And now I'm going to take it off the spindle and I'll show you what I do to take it off the spindle. I don't know if this is the right thing to do or not, but I'm just going to spin it into a ball. And this is usually what I do when I'm going to ply it or when I'm just taking it off to turn it into a ball. How often does this podcast turn into watch Naomi ball up yarn? Fairly frequently. So this is a trick that I learned for balling up yarn where you put your fingers outside of the ball, and then when you remove your fingers, the ball isn't super tight and you have a looser ball. So basically, instead of wrapping it around the ball, I wrap it around my fingers, and that makes the ball looser. Once I have it in a ball form, I'll have a slight bit more of an idea of like what I could do with it. I don't think it's enough to make 2 heels or 2 toes, I don't think. There's my little knot that I said would come undone, and it came undone. So this is my tiny little ball of wool that I spun with you. And you can see that it's fairly overspun. There's lots of little bits where it's curled. If I were to finish this yarn, which is like the name, I'm using quotes because that's the name of the activity. It's not using finish in, I'm not saying finish it as in complete it. I'm saying finish it as its own verb. In the fiber world, finishing yarn means you put it into a big open loop and you basically block it in a way. You wash it, you put it in hot water for about 10 minutes, not hot, but warm water, sometimes with wool wash for about 10 minutes, and then you, sorry, I don't know why I'm not filming myself, I'm speaking now, and then you actually whack it, you whack this big loop onto the ground, and it basically like relaxes the fibers because they've just been spun, so it's like, you're now spun, but let's just relax into this new way of being, and so you whack them, which is quite fun. And then they basically relax and you lose a lot of these like extra twisty bits. Not all of them if you've overspun it, but if you haven't totally overspun it, you lose most of them. I will most likely not do that with this. I will do something with it. It's a little ball of fingering weight singles. So that's that. So let me read you some of my favorite comments off the video from last week. Anyway, so I mean, honestly, I didn't need to create a podcast for us to have Chaos Cam, but I'll give you Chaos Cam. Anyway, here's some plants and some chaos that I didn't create, and here's a bunch of chaos, most of which I didn't create, and there's all the chaos I created. And see there in the very background? That's my tea. It might not be cold because it's a very good teapot. It might still be warm. Let's hope that it is. thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please pop down there, like and subscribe. And if you have any questions about any of the patterns I mentioned, I will try to link them all down below as well. Thank you so much, and I'll see you later!